Hello, everyone. Welcome to Engaging the Mind. I'm your host, Blake Gideon, and I'm also the senior pastor of Edmond's First Baptist Church here in Edmond, Oklahoma. Well, in this podcast, I want to divert just a little bit from our regular topic. Most of you know who have been following. I've been doing a study through Dr. Owen Straughn's book, Christianity and Wokeness. But today I want to get away from that, and there's something that I want to deal with specifically on this podcast. And it has to do with the recent abortion restriction. It wasn't an abortion ban in Texas. It's abortion restriction as a result of the heartbeat bill. I know many people in the pro-life movement are praising the heartbeat bill. Here in Oklahoma, it's supposed to go into effect on November the 1st. It'll be interesting to see what happens when that does come into play. I don't know if there'll be a block placed on it or if it'll actually become law. It'll be interesting to see. However, there's some more things I want to say about the heartbeat bill at the end of this podcast, so I pray that you will continue to listen. But what I want to do right now is to deal with a recent episode that was introduced on Fox 25 here in Oklahoma. And it has to do with an article entitled "Oklahoma Abortion Clinics Flooded with Texas Patients Amid New State Law." And so I want to read to you from this article, and then I want to make a few comments. So please bear with me. A new Texas law banning most abortions is already causing a surge of women to start seeking care out of the state. Calls, and this is a quote, it says, "Calls that we're taking are up about tenfold," said Zach Gingrich Gaylord with Trust Women, one of just 3 abortion clinics in Oklahoma. Gingrich Gaylord says Texas women are flooding their phone lines as clinics in their states are being forced to turn patients away. He goes on to say, "I was just down in Oklahoma City this week, and we had about 50 patients on the schedule, and 33 of those were from Texas and as far as south as Galveston and Corpus Christi." He says they normally perform about 20 to 30 abortions a day. However, since Texas' new law went into effect, the number has nearly doubled. This has strained the clinic, pushing them to extend hours, hire more staff, and for the first time ever, to put a cap on the amount of patients they can accept each day. He goes on to say the surrounding states just cannot sustain the kind of capacity. He estimates that those making the trek from Texas are averaging around 700 miles round trip, a barrier he believes will only put a stop to safe abortions. He goes on to say, when you're pregnant with a child and that you don't want or that you can't afford, that's a very desperate situation for people, and they will act out of desperation. Although Trust Women has been preparing for the influx for weeks, Gingrich Gaylord says Oklahoma was already underserved. Texas has essentially written what access looks like not only for Texas, but for the surrounding states as well. Now, I'm just going to stop right there because I want to point out a couple of things in this article. Most of you know that I have been supporting the abolition of abortion for a while now. I have always been, I've always been against abortion. I've always spoken out publicly about it. I have, for years, I was a strong proponent there in the pro-life movement. I was encouraging pro-life legislation. I was working with pro-life legislators. As a matter of fact, I was a strong proponent of the heartbeat bill here in the state of Oklahoma, especially when I was president of the Oklahoma Baptist Convention. However, since that time, God has opened my eyes really to the need for abolition here in the state of Oklahoma and really in the United States as a whole. And the reason I've switched is because I see there's some hypocrisy in the pro-life movement. I'm writing a book right now on the difference between pro-lifism and abolitionism. And one of the things that I highlight in that book is that the abortion rate in the state of Oklahoma has not changed in the past 10 years. Now, 10 years is only as far as I went back. I'm sure if I would have went back 20 years, you would see that the abortion rate is still the same. But I did my research in the last 10 years, and the abortion rate is the same. And in the last 10 years, we've had multiple pieces of pro-life legislation passed. As a matter of fact, right now on the books in the state of Oklahoma, there are 21 pieces of pro-life legislation in effect. But the abortion rate has remained the same. And so I want to make sure I say that again. Right now in the state of Oklahoma, there are 21 pieces of pro-life legislation instituted as law right now as I sit here in this chair doing this podcast. However, the abortion rate remains the same. Did you hear what I said? A lot of people don't realize that, but it's truth. And now, addressing specifically with this article, he says that here in Oklahoma, the abortion rates have gone up tenfold. He says there at Trust Women Clinic, and by the way, that's where our church goes every Thursday, and we preach. We preach outside the gates of that clinic, and we offer help to women, we offer healing to women, and we offer hope to women. We plead with them just to come and talk with us. And we preach the message of the gospel. We talk about how all life is precious in the sight of God. And by the grace of God, through our witness, many babies have been saved. But sadly, many women choose to continue to go in and murder their babies. And that's what abortion is. It's murder. No matter how, anytime you or kill an innocent human being, it's murder. Okay, no matter what type of excuse you try to make. Well, it was conceived in incest or it was conceived in rape. Well, it's still an innocent human being placed in the womb by God, created by God. And no matter the circumstance, if you kill that human being, that innocent human being created in the image of God, it's murder. And many women choose to continue to go in and murder their babies. And we look here at this article, and Gaylord, what was his name? Gingrich Gaylord, who's over Trust Women, says that normally they perform anywhere from 20 to 30 abortions a day. But since Texas passed the heartbeat bill, that has doubled. So Oklahoma, are you listening to me? Oklahoma pastors, are you listening? That means that now, since Texas instituted the heartbeat bill, here in Oklahoma, we are on average murdering 40 to 60 babies a day. And that's just at one clinic, and there's 3 clinics. So that means that there could be 100 up to 120 or more babies murdered in the state of Oklahoma each day. And this is happening within the shadow of many churches. I mean, many churches in Oklahoma are within driving distance. Well, I guess all are. Some it may be a 4-hour drive, others it may be a 3-hour drive, but everyone is within driving distance of these abortion mills, these murder mills. It's happening under our watch. And notice what this Gaylord Gingrich says, or Gingrich Gaylord says. And he talks about women being pregnant with a child. Then he says, many women don't want their child or they can't afford to have their child, so they need an abortion. Did you hear what he said? He acknowledges that the fetus in the womb is a baby. It's a child. He acknowledges that. He doesn't call it a fetus. He doesn't call it a blob. He says when a woman is pregnant with a child that they don't want or can't afford, then they should have a right to abort, to murder. So it's okay in the state of Oklahoma to murder innocent children. And this is happening at the same rate with 21 pieces of pro-life legislation in effect. Here in the state of Oklahoma, 21 pieces of pro-life legislation are in law right now. And we're still aborting, murdering anywhere from 40 to 60 babies a day. That's why I get so frustrated at times when we applaud all this pro-life legislation. It's a facade. It's a game. It's not accomplishing anything. Now, do I hope that the heartbeat bill saves babies? I do. I hope it does. But it's not going to save all babies. Even with the heartbeat bill in effect, babies are still being murdered in Texas. I've got friends who go to the abortion mills in Texas and preach, and they tell me that the parking lots are still full in Texas of mothers and fathers aborting their children, murdering their children. The parking lots are still full in Texas. So we applaud the heartbeat bill, but do we not understand that babies are still being murdered underneath pro-life legislation? Now, I know what people say. Well, it's better to save as many as we can, and we celebrate that. But our hearts ought to be broken. Because babies, no matter what, as long as pro-life legislation continues to be passed, babies are going to continue to be murdered. Bottom line. Now let's think about the concentration camps in Germany. Let's talk about Auschwitz, where millions of Jews were slaughtered. What if men like Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who fought for the immediate abolition of Jewish slaughter, what if he would have been happy with saying, well, let's just regulate how many Jews we killed. Let's just gradually seek to stop the murder of Jews. Let's put some laws into effect that tries to save as many Jews as we can, but yet Jews are still being murdered. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? If all of us would have been around, I hope that if all of us would have been around when Nazi Germany and its regime was in full effect and Jews were being murdered, I pray that we would have stood up and said, no more. It must stop now. Immediately it must stop. I mean, this is what God modeled for us in the Old Testament. You remember when the nation of Israel were offering their children to slaughter to the false god Molech? Did God come to the nation of Israel and say, you need to regulate how you're doing that? You need to take a gradual approach to stopping slaughtering your children. No, God said you need to stop right now, and I am angry with you and my face is turned towards you. That's communication of wrath and judgment. God called for the immediate abolition of child sacrifice in the Old Testament. He said it must stop now. Not gradually, and we're not to regulate it. That's why the only answer to abortion in the United States, especially here in Oklahoma, in my state, is to support bills of abolition. Even if the heartbeat bill becomes law here in Oklahoma, babies are still going to be murdered. That's why the only answer, the only ultimate answer is to abolish abortion. This is biblical. This is what God himself modeled for us. This is what men like Bonhoeffer and Wilberforce fought for. Wilberforce here in America to abolish slavery. William Lloyd Garrison, they fought for the immediate abolition of human slavery. Bonhoeffer fought for the immediate abolition of Jewish sacrifice and slaughter. And the church in Oklahoma, pastors in Oklahoma, we are to follow their example. We are to be obedient to the biblical model that is set before us. Even the abortion industry acknowledges that they're murdering children. There's at least 3 death camps, 3 Auschwitzes here in the state of Oklahoma. You said, what do you mean? Every abortion clinic is a death camp where innocent children are being slaughtered every single day. 40 to 60 babies slaughtered every day at one clinic. Trust Women, where we go and preach, where we go and plead, where we beg with women not to carry their babies off to slaughter. And I guess really what aggravates me is pastors are sitting there and allowing this to happen. I mean, pastors every single day, they sit in their office and they are content with saying nothing. I mean, I ask you, what are you personally doing to stop the murder of innocent children? I can tell you what some people do. Some people, once a year, they go to the Capitol and they pass out roses on Rose Day. That is doing nothing. Listen, that does nothing to stop babies from being murdered. It may make you feel better on the inside. It may give you something to publicize on your church website. But it's not doing anything to stop the slaughter of innocent children. If you truly want to stop the slaughter of innocent children, then go to the abortion mills and try to stop those women from going in there. Support bills of abolition. Encourage our legislators to support bills of abolition. Encourage our governor to support bills of abolition. If every pastor in the state of Oklahoma would come together and say, no more child sacrifice in Oklahoma. We're not going to regulate it. We're not going to take incremental steps to stop it. We demand that child sacrifice stop now. No more. Even if, I'll say it again, even if the heartbeat bill becomes law in the state of Oklahoma, babies are still going to be murdered. We can't be happy with this. We can't rejoice in this. We must fight. We must come together and fight. I know that some of you are happy just by going to Rose Day. Some of you don't even do that. Some of you talk against Abolition Day. You speak ill of abolitionists. Now, I don't agree with everything that abolitionists have done. It's a large family, and everybody has crazy cousins in their family. I haven't always agreed, but I do agree with the premise. I do believe it's grounded in Scripture. I do believe it honors God to say that child sacrifice must stop now, and we need to take tangible steps to make that happen. I know, I mean, abolitionists have been called names. I've been called names. But I ask you, what are you doing? Are you patting yourself on the back because you go to Rose Day and pass out a rose? Are you patting yourself on the back because you preach one sermon a year on sanctity of human life? While thousands of babies are being slaughtered every year in the state of Oklahoma? Are you patting yourself on the back for preaching a sanctity of human life sermon once a year or going to Rose Day once a year? When hundreds of babies are being slaughtered daily in our state? Are you patting yourself on the back and while there are three death camps, 3 Auschwitzes that continue to function here in the state of Oklahoma? Can you not see how ridiculous this is? And how hypocritical. So, I plead with you to think rationally, to think biblically. And let's rise up together. Where are the Bonhoeffers of our day? Where are the Martin Luthers of our day? Where are these men? The Harriet Tubmans, where are those women who are willing to take the risk and who are willing to be called radical, who are willing to do whatever is biblical to stop child sacrifice? I invite you, would you go with me? Would you go with me? Call me. Would you go with me to the abortion mill on Thursdays? Would you go with our church? And stand at the gate, not condemn. We don't curse and swear and condemn. We offer hope and healing and help. We say to these women, we got 20 different agencies that are willing to come alongside you and help you. We can get you in, we'll help pay for the delivery of your child. We will adopt your children. These are the things that we tell these women. And so many are hard-hearted. They cuss, they swear, they flip us off. These aren't innocent victims, these women. These are women who know exactly what they're doing and they just don't care. But hopefully we can share truth with them and their hearts will be softened. And these men who drop them off, that their hearts will be softened. We see mothers and fathers dropping off their daughters. We see grandparents taking their grandchildren. We see all these things. And they say, well, I'm not murdering the baby. It's her choice. Yeah, but you're guilty by association. You're accomplice to murder. And I think that's true of everybody who doesn't fight against it. To be silent is a great evil. To be silent when children are being slaughtered. I think it was Francis Schaeffer who said that every abortion clinic should have a sign outside in front of it that says, "Here by permission of the church." I agree with that. The only reason that death camps are able to function in the state of Oklahoma is that the churches allow it to happen. And that's a sad commentary. Our hearts ought to be broken. We ought to be weeping. We ought to be praying to God. And we ought to be willing to do our part. I'm not here to condemn you. I'm not here to shame you in any way. I mean, Lord knows I could do more. But at least I'm trying to do something on a weekly basis, tangible things, to preach the gospel at the very gates of a death camp, praying for babies to be saved and souls to be saved. I know that many of us, I'm not on social media, but I know that many people who have social media accounts, I know they love to go on there and they love to celebrate, what God is doing in their church. And I know that some people do that from a spirit of genuine humility for what God's doing. Others, they do it for vainglory. They do it to exalt themselves. Oh yes, the pretense, may look like it's for the glory of God, but really it's for the praise of men. What you ought to be posting on social media is the fact that children are being slaughtered and we got to stop it. Instead of celebrating our banana pudding fellowships, we ought to be weeping over the murder of children. If you'd like to know more about how to get involved, just contact me here at Edmonds First Baptist Church. I'll be willing to do whatever I can to help in any way. I know it's hard for some of you because you live far away. Some of you, the closest death camp, the closest abortion mill is probably four hours away. But there's other ways you can help, and I'd be willing to talk with you about that. And study abolition, study the difference between an abolition bill and a pro-life bill. I mean, you can go to freethestates.org and go to their website, and they've got tons of information there on the difference between pro-life legislation and abolition legislation. Call me personally, shoot me an email. I'll be willing to talk with you about those things and talk to you about the difference. One of the things I try not to do is to condemn or to speak ill of my other pastors. They're good men. They love righteousness. But for some reason, some aren't willing to stand on what they bow down and pray for. I promise you, there are pastors across this land who, when they kneel down and pray, they pray for child sacrifice to stop. But when they stand up, they don't do anything about it. All I'm asking is for you to, what you pray for when you kneel down, I want you to stand up and proclaim. To do otherwise is hypocrisy. I pray that you hear the desire of my heart, the burden in my heart. We're in a fight. We're in a war. And even if the heartbeat bill goes into effect here in the state of Oklahoma, the bottom line is babies are still going to be murdered. And the only answer is abolition. Until we meet again, serve the King.